right now. Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome inside the Fan Cave. Thank you very much, Josh Taylor. And we want to hear from you, as we always do, 7 nights a week. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. We are live tonight, KDKA Plus, and up at 93.7 The Fan, where we find Andrew Fillipponi, who made his debut on Fox Sports 1 today, FS1. And I thought you did a very good job, Andrew. You look very comfortable out there, and you certainly handled yourself well, as I would have expected. So congrats on that, and perhaps it'll lead to other things for you up there.
Yeah, we'll see. Willie Colon was on that panel as well with me. And everybody here loves Willie, part of that Super Bowl 43 team and right tackle for Ben on that final drive. And he wants Aaron Rodgers back, and he believes that better things are ahead for the Steelers with Aaron Rodgers under center. And I vehemently disagreed with that, but I did it in a respectful way where I don't think that Willie's going to come to my house here in the next few months and want to get into it with me. The way that James Harrison and Joey Porter seem to be at each other's throats right now, Bob, over this whole Ben Roethlisberger fiasco.
Yeah, well, listen, Willie can have his opinions about this year. I don't think he meant that long term, obviously, just for now. And they got to kick the can down the road another year potentially. And you know, what is the future plan? Did he give any indication what he thinks he'd like to see them do?
And that's my whole thing here is, you know, if you have a good season next year with Rodgers, okay, like let's say they end the playoff win drought. Okay, now what? Now what do? Now you're picking in the mid to late 20s. You don't have a quarterback. He's probably going to retire, you would think. You don't know anything more about Will Howard because he would have sat behind Rodgers. So I guess in that situation, maybe you would just roll the dice with Howard a year later and say 2 years of watching, he's ready to go. But that would pretty much take you completely out of the contention for the rookie quarterback class next year. And I know, last year at this time, people were saying the same thing. Mm-hmm. Oh, 2026 is so many good quarterbacks. As it turned out, there might only be one. But I really do believe, based on how many guys decided to take the college money and the NIL money and stay in school and develop more, I am of the opinion, Bob, that next year is going to be a much deeper class, and I would want to get a piece of that if I could.
Yeah, and you have to be in position to do that because it's hard to trade up when you have a lot of teams looking for quarterbacks, and that is the case this year also. A lot of teams in the top 10 are going to want QBs. You know, the Steelers still need another wide receiver, and today we saw a fire sale continue down in Miami. Tyreek Hill was let go. Bradley Chubb was let go. James Daniels was let go, and I'm sure there are going to be others, probably two down the line. They'll figure out something. I am of the belief that I don't want to mess around here with Tyreek Hill. I do not want him for a lot of reasons. He's a very talented guy. When you look at when he was at his prime, nobody was better. But he is 32. He's coming off that terrible surgery for both the ACL and a dislocated knee, and he has baggage with him as well. And I don't think he's as good as he once was. So I will pass on that. Do you want him? Because he is a very talented guy.
No. I don't. I mean, he was still on pace to be a 1,000-yard receiver last year before the injury in just the 4 games that he played. But this is not your garden variety torn ACL. There's a dislocated kneecap there. I mean, there's a lot to this. He might not be ready in time for the start of training camp in next year. And you wonder with guys that are he's such a speed receiver. So much of his game is predicated on how fast he is. I'm nervous now that he's not going to be the same guy. And you're right. I mean, do you really want to, at 32 years old, diminishing player, invite that into your locker room? If it's a super bargain, you'd have to maybe consider it. But I'd like the Steelers to get younger at that position. You know, Roman Wilson has a clean slate now with Mike McCarthy. He doesn't with Aaron Rodgers, but I'd like to see Roman Wilson get more of a chance. I'd like to see them bring in somebody clearly in the draft in the early rounds and get a free agent who's in his 20s and not someone that's in his 30s on the open market, Bob.
Right, and that's also, you know, you don't want to get older, you want to get younger, especially at those key positions for later. Whomever is the quarterback has weapons around him. I put a poll on X earlier about Tyreek Hill. Do you want him back or no? Use a draft pick or other free agents. And by far, the big number, 80%, was use draft picks and other free agents. Only 19% said bring in Tyreek Hill. We have our KDKA.com/Connect poll of the night. It's about the Pirates, and we're going to talk about them as they started today. It's a simple one, 4 answers for you. What will the Pirates win total be in 2026? Under 75, 76 to 80, 81 to 85, over 86. Real quick, Andrew, I'm going to go 81 to 85. I think they're going to be contending for a wild card. What about you?
Yeah, that's my number 2. I still wonder when Connor Griffin's going to get here, how good he's going to be when he arrives right away. I wonder about their pitching depth. I wonder about the left side of their infield until Griffin's ready, their defense, their fielding. Is Henry Davis really going to be their everyday catcher? The guy could not hit water if he fell out of a boat last year, so I'd be very concerned about that aspect of his game. So they're not a juggernaut team. They're by no means the Dodgers. But I think they are vastly improved from last year, and I'm with you. I think right now they're a slightly better than 500 team.
All right, we want to hear from you out there. Call us at 412-575-2600. We'll get into all this and more as we continue right here live. KDK Plus and 93.7 The Fan. It's the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call on a Monday night in Pittsburgh. We will be right back. All right, welcome back. This is our Xfinity Tweet of the Night from Jason Mackey, who's been down there covering the Pirates. Here are some additional earnings to Marcell Ozuna's $12 million contract. He can pick up an extra $250,000 for an MVP first place. He'll also get money for second and third. World Series MVP, that'll be a nice incentive for everyone. If they should get that, he gets $50,000. All-Star Silver Slugger. I don't think a lot of these are going to be attainable, but I do think he's going to be an upgrade, Andrew, and I think that's what they're looking for, a designated hitter. In any way, and I know Jack Serwinski was released to create an opening for Ozuna on the 40-man. Is there any way that Andrew McCutchen still has a way to get on this roster? Or if not, where do you think it goes from here for him? Is he going to go to another team? Will he wait till his injury happens somewhere? What will he do?
No, I think his career's over. I think it ended in a really disappointing way for him where he thought he was a lock to be on this team next year if he wanted to play. They ended up going out and getting upgrades at his spots, corner outfield, DH. So now I think he's a man without a job. I don't think that really any team is looking for a guy that is primarily just a DH and occasional corner outfield off your bench, right-handed hitter. So I think he's done. I think Andrew McCutchen is going to pivot into either broadcasting or podcasting, or maybe he just chills out and does nothing. But I think he played for a very long time, almost till he was 40. In his late 30s, he was still a semi-productive player. But there's just fewer bench spots now, Bob. Teams are carrying so many extra pitchers. Starting pitchers don't go deep into games. The National League doesn't use the pitcher as a hitter anymore, so there's fewer pinch hitting opportunities in games. So that's shrunk those benches, and I think Andrew McCutchen's going to get squeezed out for that reason. I honestly think his baseball career is done.
On that note, let's go to our number one Cochrane Go One Better caller of the night. We go to Chuck in Uniontown. Hello, Chuck. Your thoughts?
Thanks, fellas, once again. 83 wins is what I think. 83 wins. Fringe on the playoffs. If they can make the playoffs if somebody else stumbles. But they're going to have, with not having the playoff experience, they're going to have to be a little bit better to outfight somebody else. They can do it. But at this point, it's on the fringe. I also think that why don't the Pirates think about making Andrew McCutchen a coach if his playing days are over? What I really wanted to say was, I don't think Connor Griffin should start the season with the Pirates. Send him down to the minors for about a month or so. That's an awful lot of pressure to put on a 19-year-old
It is,
kid.
but he seems mature enough, Chuck, to deal with that. Although, to support your point, people like Mike Trout took a while to get up here. Juan Soto was a real exception to that. He immediately was in a lineup and making a big splash right off the bat.
I heard your discussion about that today on the Fan, Bob, and the one thing that I felt, I'll say it now, that should be mentioned is if you don't start Connor Griffin in the major leagues, and he's down in AAA, and Nick Gonzalez and Jared Triolo struggle offensively, Well, fans are rightfully going to look back on that and say, this may have been where our playoff spot was lost. I don't think that the Pirates are a lock to win the NL Central. I don't think they're going to run away with a playoff spot. So all of these games matter. Even in a super long season that's 162 games, it could come down to tiebreakers or 1 or 2 games here or there. And if those guys struggle because you wanted to see what Connor Griffin could do against AAA pitching, that could very well be the difference between making the playoffs, Bob, and missing the playoffs this year.
And that's what I mentioned to Joe. I thought my take was he should be up here. And if he struggles
Mine too.
And if it's a problem, then okay, you adjust. But those games in April matter. Just look at what happened last year when they started so badly. They were essentially out of it before it ever started. They cannot afford that this year because even with their additions, I don't know that they're going to be digging out from this kind of stuff. So it's important how they start. And if he shows he has that ability to do it, then so be it. You mentioned Henry Davis. I'm curious because they brought in Rafael Flores, to be somebody who, he's a big, taller guy. I think were the Mets high on him? Was it the Mets? Or the Yankees?
Yankees.
The Yankees. Were they high on him?
That was the Bednar deal.
Okay.
No, this is a guy that was, I think, undrafted. And he was a no-name prospect, but he hit so well in the minor leagues that he got on people's radar and ends up getting traded for Bednar, which I thought was a little bit of a puzzler because Henry Davis, Joey Bart, Andy Rodriguez coming back from injury, you had a glut of young catchers. My issue, though, is I don't know if any of those guys are good. You've only got so many at-bats to give out. How do you handle that situation? All the reporting seems to be, and I think this is interesting, all the Pirates reporters seem to want to make it sound like they're pushing Joey Bart out the door, that they're trying to find a trade partner for Bart. He hit for 0 power last year, but he still walked a lot. And the year before, he was one of their best hitters. So I don't understand that one, Bob. You need catching depth to get through a season. We've seen Pirates seasons that have blown up because they've had problems at catcher. I don't know. Right now, I feel like Joey Bart's probably their best option. And because Paul Skeens likes Henry Davis so much, and he was the #1 pick, it seems like they're going to give him every opportunity to lose the job.
Yeah, I'm just hoping Davis, he made tremendous strides learning defensive catching, and he wasn't known for that. They had him out in right field to start because he wasn't doing all so well behind the plate, and all of a sudden he's turned into one of the more reliable guys. Can he make that same jump offensively? I think that's harder to do. However, he was a 1-1. I would expect that at some point. The question is how long will it take to even get him to a 250 average and 15 home runs, which to me is not all that much in this day and age.
I agree, but to me, things have changed. Last year was a year you weren't any good. You fired your manager midseason. That was a time for Henry Davis to take his licks, get an opportunity, try to hit at the major league level. If he failed, so what? You were a bad team. You were a last-place team. Well, now you're trying to make the playoffs. And it's not as simple as, for me, just run Henry Davis out there 130 times this year and see how he does. Because that could also negatively impact your team. You're trying to win games finally. The rebuilding days are over. This is a year put up or shut up time, and the time to just give a guy an opportunity because where he was drafted, I reject that. You got to put your best players out there in 2026, Bob, to try to win. It's not about development anymore.
But as you described, there aren't many really who are stepping up and saying, hey, it's my job right now. And I think offensively they need that position to produce some numbers. You can also hit us up on X at KD Pump at the Pony Express. This is from the Top Topic Sub, who says, I still want another fun season with Aaron Rodgers, especially with Mike McCarthy. We can think about 27 through 30 after that. Well, that's fine, except if you do that, you're reducing any chance you're going to see anything from Will Howard. Not that he may be the answer, but at least if you had a chance to play him, and you still might if Aaron Rodgers get injured. But if he plays, and as you suggest, they're another one of these 10-7 kind of teams, they're going to be not in a position to draft maybe the quarterback they want. And then you still may be looking. So that's the most important position out there. They have to figure it out at some point. Rodgers, I'm sure he'll come here and be fine, but that's not going to get you where you need to go.
He was 1-5 against playoff teams. He had 6 touchdowns and 8 turnovers. They averaged 14 points a game against playoff teams. All right, to me, that's not a fun season. You know, they had the season had its moments. They beat Baltimore twice. That's great. They went to Detroit and won. That was cool. They beat New England in September. So I'm not saying it was a season devoid of fun, but the season is defined by how it ends. When you lose in the first round and you score 6 points and you get blown out, that's not a fun season to me. And so at 42 years old, going to be 43 at the end of the year, I think we know what Aaron Rodgers is at this point. Aaron Rodgers wasn't good his last year with Mike McCarthy. They went 6-9-1. Mike McCarthy got fired that season. So I'm not really in a rush to run that back and see the band get back together again, Bob. I know you like bands. I know you like to dance to bands. I don't know if you played band in high school. Did you have an instrument you played?
Well, guitar, but no, I wasn't in a band. I was more or less, on the field. We were doing Elvis Presley imitations. That was my bag for now. We got to go to a break on that note. We'll take a break, come back with Patrick and Gibsonia. You'll be next to join us right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call on KDK Plus and 93.7 The Fan. All right, welcome back. Let's go back to the phone lines, Andrew. We have Patrick and Gibsonia. Hello, Pat.
Yeah, hello. Bob, thanks for taking my call. Hey, listen, I'm just talking about Connor Griffin. To me, the kid, by all counts, he's great. I don't understand whether the discussion whether to keep him on a team or not.
It's just a lack of minor league experience. He only played in a handful of games at Double-A, 0 in Triple-A, but he is this guy who's been described in generational terms. And when you get one, and when you feel that he can come right up here and he seems poised enough to do it, and again, we'll see. I don't know if you can draw conclusions on spring training baseball and how he hits, but they already like what they see from him. And again, because they don't have, guys in there who are incumbents who aren't going to lose their job at short or third, there's a spot for him, Andrew. So I just want to see. If he struggles, and then they go back to plan B for temporary.
I still think that it's a long shot. They give him a contract extension just because of the risk involved. It's one thing for the Red Sox to give out $130 million to Roman Anthony. They've given out tens of dozens of contracts like that. Connor Griffin would be the biggest contract if they sign him to that amount of money they've ever given out. And I just have a hard time believing they're going to give it to a guy that hasn't even played baseball at AAA, Bob.
Yeah, I agree. They got to see something. They're going to wait a little bit. I think my bet is, even though
by then it'll be too long. You wait that long, too bad.
Well,
he ain't going to make a deal.
No, I get it. I don't know that he's going to make one anyway. We don't know that for sure. What I do know is that I would see what he can do, and I'd put him out there and just go from there. And if he has trouble, he has trouble. There's nothing wrong with going back and spending some time in the minors. So it's going to be the biggest story of the spring training. Bradenton, Lecom Park, when they start playing, which is this weekend. It's going to be fun to watch. Andrew, thanks. We'll do it again tomorrow night. Are you on FS1 again tomorrow?
I am, but I'm also going to be on with you, Bob.
Okay. Well, I think Rich will be here, not me, but I'll look forward to watching you and seeing you tomorrow.
All right. See you, Bob.
Good night. Have a good night.